Tell me a story. Tell me my story, the story that's been told to me 4 generations, the story that's been told for me 2 generations. Tell me a story about survivors who lived to fulfill a dream, survivors who lived to fulfill the dreams of generations of survivors and then fell in 48 so that we could rebuild home. Tell me about home. Built with coarse sands by coarse hands and the tears of yesteryears, by the pioneers of your today, built so that we could turn a prophecy into a reality and build a life in Eretz Yisrael. Life that we would read about in letters sent to us with return addresses wrote in a revived tongue, with letters we knew from our tefillot and songs sung, sent so that we could send back clothes and canned goods, and that little extra we'd saved, so that we could help make life a little more manageable as you fought through 6 days of wars which opened the doors, the gates to an old city where my father would wrap tefillin at the wall, where he would tie the straps so tight that they would leave a permanent imprint on his arm and in his heart so that he could bring me up in a world where it's even possible to take this existence for granted. Tell me a story about my generation, about what we can do to fill your hearts with nachas, a story about the deeds that my grandchildren will one day thank me for. You gave us existence. Now we must give our children coexistence. You built our nation a state with a piece of land so that we could turn that nation state into a peaceful land. Tell me a story about the symbols of who we are, how your parents took the Magin Davidov pajamas, painted it on airplanes, sewed it into flags, how you took our birthright and turned it into birthright, and Tor and Gap Year. Tell me a story about how my generation will take the Jewish state and turn it into a Jewish state. Because we were told that we would be a light unto nations. And we will not stop climbing Hasulam Arachim, the ladder of values, until we can stand together in shul and watch the heavens gates close at the end of Ne'ilah and know that Israel is the Jewish state not because Jews live there, but because it is the fulfillment of our Jewish values and aspirations. That we are a Jewish people that our grandparents and their grandparents and their grandparents and their grandparents would be proud of. It is a story about a people with a responsibility for one another that runs to the deepest levels of the ocean, because the tides that pull us aren't always felt on the surface, but they are there and they bind us together. It is a story about a shared destiny, of a shared history, and of a future that is in our hands to write. So close your eyes and see your Israel. Remember how your heartbeat both stopped and quickened as your plane touched down, as you passed your first ever kosher McDonald's. Smell the air. Notice the Hebrew letters that name the coffee shops and falafel stands. Feel the shekels in the palms of your hands as you push through the shuk, where you don't have to ask if there's bacon in it, and where strangers who are family will let you know that you're taking too long and then invite you over for Shabbos. See the street signs of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv that are named for the pioneers of our past. And if your pioneers are the rabbis who codified the Mishnah in the face of death so that we could live a life of Torah, see them. If your pioneers are those who came with nothing to start over, see them. If they're kibbutzniks, if they're refuseniks, see them. If they're sleeping in tents on Rothschild Boulevard or women praying at the wall, if they're Ethiopian immigrants stepping out onto a tarmac carrying rucksacks filled with stories of faith and freedom, see them. If your pioneers are the activists who insist on peace and who aren't afraid to both love Israel and to be angry at it, see them. If they're the parents who choose to come to Israel with young children and who really believe it when they promise their children that there will no longer be a need for a military when they turn 18, see them. And now ask yourself, who will the new streets be named for? Jabotinsky, King George, Hillel? They didn't build the high school in Shlomi, we did that. A school that is a living bridge between Jews, secular and religious, a place where people can answer the question, what kind of Jew are you, with the Jewish kind. Because here, Judaism is for everybody to take what is close to their hearts, and for Israel, that is revolutionary. Tell me a story about a girl who leans on her 2 friends' shoulders and laughs as she tells me she can never remember which one is here for the religious track and which for the engineering. When we decide that we are unwilling to let our fate rest on handwritten pieces of prayer, good intentions tucked comfortably into the cracks of a symbol of what we can be. When we are unwilling to let our story rest on the shoulders of our past and we lift ourselves up by these Eitzei Chaim, these trees of life that surround our story, and we remind ourselves who we can be, that is when we will write the story that only we can write. Tell me a story.